So we are in presentation number 31 of two witnesses. And then we started with Simeon. So we have lots of matter to cover. So we will jump these Revelation 11 verses. And for anybody logging in just for this presentation, we are exploring through Revelation 11 for the two witnesses. That is the primary go-to chapter for two witnesses. And verse 7 is the current piece of scripture that we are exploring in detail. The verse 7, when they, that is two witnesses, shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, against two witnesses, and shall overcome them and kill them. So this beast, whichever is coming from out of bottomless pit, is making war against two witnesses and overcoming them and kill them. So we wanted to know what the beast is, who the beast is, and how many beasts are there. So with that inquisitive mind, we went to Daniel, went through Daniel 2 and Daniel 7, and then Daniel 8. We went through lots of beasts. Beasts are not really animals, but they're representations of the kingdoms, the beast-like kingdoms. They're not, even though they appear to be very civil, but inside they're brutal, cruel, ruthless, like a beast would be, a wild beast. So that is the idea. So we found, surprisingly, the little horn in Daniel 2 as well as Daniel 7 does very similar thing. It declares war against saints of the Most High and shall overcome them and shall also kill them. So we find the exact phrase in Old Testament, but it is against people of God. But now this verse is saying this beast will make war against two witnesses. So if you consider two witnesses to be same as true church, we are talking about one beast, the same beast, that is the little horn. If you consider the two witnesses are separate and different from the true church, then we are talking about two different beasts, but they're very similar to each other in their characteristics and the pattern of attack and their conquest and victory over people of God. That's what we are seeing patterns so far. So let's launch to these two witnesses were killed by the beast that ascended out of bottomless pit. So here is Daniel 2. We have four kingdoms, four quartet. The head of gold, the statue is shown to Nebuchadnezzar. Head is Babylon, headed by Nebuchadnezzar. And breast and arms, Medo-Persia. Belly and thighs, Greece. And Rome, 2 legs of iron. And feet and clay, a long period of unknown kings. And then we went to Daniel 7. We saw the beasts actually mentioned. The first vision was shown to Nebuchadnezzar, and the second vision in Daniel 7 was shown to prophet Daniel in the night. These are part of night visions. We saw a lion with two wings of an eagle, and that is patterned after Babylon. And then we have bear, which is patterned after Medo-Persia, and leopard, which is patterned after Greece, and a dreadful and terrible beast, which is patterned after Rome. And these converge. Then we also went to chapter 8. We went in detail about the ram, that is a representation of Medo-Persia, and the he-goat, that is Alexander. So scriptures clearly tell us he-goat is Greece and ram is Medo-Persia. So the interpretation in Daniel 8 tells us that's why we put them in parallel to the Medo-Persia, and Greece. And here in this diagram, Daniel 11 is not shown, and the little horn is also not shown in this diagram. This I borrowed it after from internet. So this is general idea. Almost everybody universally agree about this picture. And most people, about 99% of the Christians would think that the winged lion is same as Babylon. Medo-Persia is same as bear, but we have a different understanding because arrival of little horn, and we believe that the chapter 2 are shadow kingdoms and chapter 7 are the real kingdoms. Chapter 2 are BC kingdoms before Christ, and chapter 7 are AD kingdoms. That's our understanding. Let's see the second picture. This probably helps us. And Daniel 2, we have Babylon, head, fine gold, Medo-Persian, beast, breast and arms of silver in the statue empires, and Greece, belly and thighs made up of brass, and Rome, legs of iron, and unknown beasts, and then the kingdom of God, the stone that comes and hits, and the whole statue crumbles and will be ground into powder and would be blown away by wind, and they are found no more. Only kingdom of God stays. So left side, these are all part of the statue kingdoms. And then Daniel, this interesting thing is little horn. The little horn is really very important, as important as the bigger kingdoms, greater kingdoms. So the little horn arrives part of Greece in the shadow, and then kingdom of God is also established here during the Rome by very Son of God. He inaugurated the invisible kingdom of God. And then we have Daniel 7, we have the real kingdoms, because Daniel 2 are shadow. In real kingdoms, this is AD kingdoms, we have lion with eagle's wings. So this is patterned after Babylon, but it is a modern nation after Christ. And then the second is bear and raised on one side, and it has 3 ribs in between his teeth. So this is patterned after Medo-Persian union, the 2 ethnic groups. We have some modern nation that is union of 2 people, 2 ethnic groups, and its national emblem perhaps is bear. They have more things named after bear. There's only one country in the modern history, AD kingdoms. Like lion is only one country that has lion as a predominant thing. And then you have also leopard and 4 wings of a bird on its back. Wings is speed and agility of military attacks. And 4 heads, lots of intelligence. Our 4 heads actually, it is patterned after Greece, and they have this modern kingdom. Our nation has a leader like Alexander. He is very militant, and he wants to grab the whole land as much as possible. He started occupying every other country, and he has the armed forces. They are very swift, like Alexander. They are known for their speed and swiftness and attack. And after that leader's death, his country is divided into 4 parts, just like Alexander's. See, we have a pattern. There's only one country. And then the 4th country is the dreadful and terrible beast, which is patterned after Rome. So these are all superpowers briefly in their own time. But when this dreadful 4th beast comes, all other 3 lose their superpower status. They're like just normal kingdoms, and they might live in their past glory, but they are no longer considered superpowers. Now we have lone surviving superpower, which is like Rome. And this superpower, the dreadful beast, has 10 horns. And Out of 10 horns comes the little horn. So the little horn actually comes in the fourth kingdom, not the third. Here in the shadow, it is third kingdom, and in the reality, it is fourth kingdom. It is impossible for these four kingdoms to be these four kingdoms. Then you cannot account for little horn. You can ask question. If somebody argues with you that they are same, then ask them question, when would little horn come? This is important. What you are learning, you have to ask questions if you are in doubt. But if you prove to yourself, you can help somebody. You can challenge somebody in a healthy way. You can also explain to them and educate them. This is how you can do work of God. So the little horn comes in after the fourth kingdom, or part of the fourth empire, the dreadful lone superpower that is left unchallenged. And then the kingdom of God comes. This is the second coming of Jesus Christ. This is also second coming. These two are we are talking about same events. Now we are exploring little horn. We went through several chapters, and we also went to the secular history. Josephus' complete works, the Jewish historian, we went through his writings about the time of little horn. In the shadow under the Grecian kingdom, the little horn was fulfilled by Antiochus Epiphanes. So the Greece is divided into four kingdoms. The left and right, east and west are not important, but the north and south are important. North is Seleucid Empire, and south is Ptolemies. Ptolemies primarily controlled Egypt in the south and peripheral kingdoms, while the northern Seleucid Empire controlled Syria and other northern parts, and the Judea is caught in between these two major superpowers in the history. So it is pressed between the two giants of north and south, the king of north and king of south, that is Seleucid Empire and Ptolemy Empire. So that is shadow. We went to Jewish historian Josephus and gathered more information. And then we went to Daniel 7 and gathered about this guy, the reality. From shadow, we came to little horn reality. Last time, we gathered few more features. And today we go back to this little horn, but we are going to a different Daniel's book. Earlier, we spent time in Daniel 8. Today, we are going to spend time in Daniel 11. So Daniel 11 is very fascinating chapter. It starts with King of North and King of South. So King of North, King of South, they will be fighting. And then we're not talking about a single king. We're talking about dynasties. We have on the north, Seleucus Nicator is the first guy. And then there is a second Seleucus and third Seleucus. Actually, they acquired a title called Antiochus. So we have Antiochus I, Antiochus II, Antiochus the Great, Antiochus III, and Antiochus IV is the little horn that is widely understood and universally accepted, because that is the only historical act that fulfills the scripture. And then the little horn here comes in the fourth modern nation, and little horn now is most likely. And this little horn is very sinister. It is unlike any other beast. And from shadow, we learn few things, but reality, we learn more things, because this is very image and this is the shadow. And let's see what we have learned about the little horn so far. Going through this list helps us to get familiar, so that when we come to Revelation and other prophetic studies, the bells should ring. The bells should ring automatically. Yeah, I know this. This seems to be a little horn. This phrase, I remember, little horn has. So that kind of bells ringing is our goal and our target when we go through these lists repetitively. Finally, when we are done with little horn, I will take a picture. I will take all the features that we have discussed, the 100 plus at that time in future. So I will circulate that through email for your reference. So let's launch little horn in shadow. It comes out of one of the four notable horns of the Greek Empire. So it comes from Seleucid dynasty, Seleucus, and it grows to be exceedingly great. It starts its tenure as a small guy, a little guy, but it grows immensely, big, huge. It expands towards southeast and the pleasant. The word pleasant is understood as Judea. It grows great even to the host of the heaven. So there are two important phrases we learned, host of the heaven and stars of heaven. Both refer to the covenanted people of God. At this point in history, northern 10 tribes are gone into captivity and they are no longer have their covenantal status. But southern Judah is still, they have covenantal status. So they are considered God's people at this time. And they are called host of heaven and stars of heaven. These two important phrases always apply to Israel. And now, currently, at this point in history, they are applied only to Judea or Judah, Benjamin, and parts of Levi. So that is Judah. So this guy comes and he grows great even to the host of the heaven. So he doesn't even care about God's covenanted people. Historically, in the shadow, this guy talks about, deals with Judeans, covenanted people of God. And he casts down some of the host of heaven to the ground. So in this context, they are no longer covenanted people because they were thrown down to the ground because their covenantal relationship is severely damaged or taken out through deceit, through this force, and through torture, through the threats, whatever means, every means that is available to this little horn, it did to the Judeans and cast down some of the stars of heaven to the ground. Stars of heaven is also another phrase specifically for Israel, physical Israel, and now to only to Judah, that is in shadow, but in reality, in our side, in AD kingdoms, it refers to the true church, again, the covenanted people. The true church is also called stars of heaven and the host of heaven. The word host is Saba, it is again the armies of heaven, the armies of heaven, and stamped upon about to the little horn. So it's directly attacking and confronting the covenanted people of God. That is the underlying principle. It magnifies itself even to the Prince of the host of heaven. The Prince of the host of heaven is a title for Son of God, Jesus Christ, Yeshua. So it exalts itself against the Prince of the host of heaven. So this very sinister is very focused on Son of God and his people, his covenanted people. He causes daily to be taken away. Daily is another euphemism, another metaphoric figure of speech way refers to Jesus Christ. And he shall be taken away from the hearts and minds of the people. And he causes place of sanctuary to be cast down. So in the Old Testament times, the sanctuary is the physical temple in Jerusalem. And the daily sacrifices is what people understand, but not necessarily sacrifices. Daily is tamid. Tamid is used for continual, perpetual. That is the meaning. Every day, morning and evening, lamps are lit and fresh olive oil is poured into the lamps and it wicks. Their wicks are trimmed every day, morning and evening, by priests. So every day doing that operation is daily. And daily morning and evening sacrifices are offered. And daily the incense is offered. So the daily or continually the showbread is offered on the table of showbread for the priests. So the daily, whatever is in, if you go through all the allusions, figures of speech of the tabernacle and temple, they all refer to the high priest under new covenant, Jesus Christ, Yeshua. So he, in the shadow, these things are taken away, but in the reality, the authority and the teachings of Son of God are taken away from true church. That's what the little horn does. It takes away Christ from us and causes the place of sanctuary to be cast down. So the Antiochus Epiphanes actually desecrates the whole sanctuary. He takes it down and he offers pig on another altar that he builds on the top of God's altar in the physical tabernacle, physical temple in Judea. For us, spiritual parallel is we are the sanctuary of God. We are the temple of living God under the new covenant. So we would be cast down by this little horn. A host was given to it against daily because of transgression. So a private army was given to this little horn, and with this army, it will attack the true church, the daily. Why? Because of transgression. Initially, in the shadow, more and more Judeans are falling away from their covenantal relationship with God. They are no longer faithful to the terms and conditions of the covenant. Here, in the reality, for us also, we are somehow the terms and conditions of new covenant and our faithfulness to them are somehow violated, and we would fall from our covenantal relationship. So here the Judeans, majority of them are no longer covenanted people. They no longer enjoy the status of a covenanted people from God's side. God promised several blessings under Sinai covenant as long as they remain faithful to the covenant. For us also, if we remain faithful to the terms and conditions of new covenant, God's promises stands firm and he will uphold. But if we are somehow deceived or threatened, if we lose our covenantal status with God, then we are in danger. So the transgression comes first and the little horn appears on the scene. We see this more and more at several places. And to cast down truth to the ground. It casts down truth to the ground. In the shadow, for us, the gospel would be thrown down. It prevents gospel work to be done, and it will persecute whoever teaching the gospel. It practices and prospers, so it grows more and more wicked and becomes more and more uh, accomplishing in its projects and purposes, in persecuting true church and killing true church in the reality. It is 2,300 days from the daily taken away, abomination, desolation, host and sanctuary trodden down. The whole operation from the abomination, desolation onwards, it is 2,300 days. It's a metaphoric days that are given to us in scriptures. And then we'll continue with this shadow. Sanctuary would be cleansed after that period. So God promises, even though abomination, desolation happens, my sanctuary is thrown down and it is defiled, and the abomination that causeth desolation is instituted, even though it is in bad state. After a set period of time, 2,300 days, God promises to cleanse the temple and restores the temple. Doesn't mean he will restore the physical temple. He will restore the church, the true church. He is also a king of fierce countenance. He's fierce purposeful, and he's focused. He's arrogant, he's proud, and he's terrifying, terrible person, accomplishing and fully bent on accomplishing the evil things that he purposes. He understands dark sentences. His intelligence is beyond human. He stands up when transgressors come to the full. So the same thing we learned. Now the angel also telling same thing. Its power shall be mighty, but not by its own power. So it's not own power, this little horn, but there's some external agencies are supplying power to it. It is successful in what it undertakes, causes terrible destruction. So large-scale destruction it does. It destroys mighty men, several strong people, and also it destroys holy people. Holy people in the shadow are Jews, and in reality is true church, true Christians. By treachery, it will succeed through deceit. So it works through deceit and it works behind the scenes. You never know who the real villain is behind the killing machines that we see. Whatever you say, radical Islam or BLM, take your pick. You see them killing bunch of people and doing lots of bloodshed. Sometimes they kill lot Christians also. So on the surface, it may appear to be BLM or radical Islam or some terrorist group or this group or that group. But here it's a very interesting point is 22. Behind the scenes, you have little horn in action. It is concealed in its ways. But God says that is the entity that is causing all these killings. So for example, hypothetically, if you take BLM, if you do a dissection, you do thorough analysis of its origin, roots, and who is pulling strings, and why they are doing, what they are doing, where they are going, where they are coming from. In totality, if you try to evaluate and analyze each of these killing machines that you see, this is what is really important for Christians. You should have that spiritual discernment to see an entity in its totality. Don't just listen to news and just believe everything that they say. You gather every information, every bit and every piece, and try to look in totality from where it is coming, where it is going, what it is doing. And if you do a thorough good analysis, you would reach to the entity that is actually behind the scenes doing this work. If you do for all the each and every killing machine that you see in your time, probably you would be able to reach this little horn. It is concealed. It is by treachery, it will succeed through deceit. It will never come openly and tell that I am killing all these people. It doesn't tell that I am the one who is actually killing the Christians and causing the martyrdom. It is behind the scenes. It is the villain behind the curtain. That's a phrase Hollywood uses that. In most of the James Bond movies, you would see James Bond would at some point encounter the villain. And villain has his own den, and he have lots of henchmen and the criminals that would be working for him. But nobody has seen who the villain is. He is behind the curtain. He gives instructions, and he has a cat in his arm, in his lap, but nobody knows who he is. The little horn is like that. So if you see a killing mission on the surface, and if you think killing mission is a little horn, you are mistaken, because you're missing out all these points which scriptures are eloquently describing. It is arrogant and destroys many that are unaware of its schemes. See, its victims are not unaware, are not aware of it. They thought somebody else is killing them. While they are friends with this little horn, probably they put little horn in highest esteem and they think that little horn is a godly figure, or they would adore the little horn, or they may be worshipping little horn. Who knows? Nobody suspects this little horn. They will suspect every other killing mission that they see, but the real killing mission, which they cannot see, is always a mystery. It is arrogant and destroys many. It is proud. It is so arrogant and proud, it doesn't have any compassion, any consideration for human life. It is ruthless. It destroys bulk of the people, population of the earth. It is tiny guy, but it pulls all the strings. And there is a saying, all roads lead to Rome. Like this, all the killing missions, if you analyze, they have all the roads lead to this little horn. And many that are unaware of its schemes. So it destroys many that are unaware of its schemes. So most Christians fall for it. Those of understanding and discernment would really discern the little horn, but nobody listens to them. That is the picture scriptures are painting. Verse 24, it stands up against the Prince of Princes. This is a phrase for Jesus Christ, Yeshua. It stands up openly or behind the scenes. I think it does openly, at least. It does openly, but still Christians love this entity. This is a blaspheming nation. It blasphemes Son of God. But yet they love this little horn. This is a great mystery, great paradox. Christians have their fundamental beliefs from teachings of Christ, but still they fall for the little horn which blasphemes their Savior, their Lord, their King, and their High Priest. Isn't it a big paradox how the things would unfold in the end times? It will be broken, but not by human agency. But don't think this will be successful forever. There is a full stop from God, not by man. So it will be broken. We go to secular history. Josephus writes, gives us gruesome details how it played out in shadow when Antiochus Epiphanes came to Judea and killed a bunch of them and desecrated the temple and did cause the abomination desolation and left. And we have a richness of patterns here from secular history. He's very respected Jewish historian, Josephus. So we went through his writings a couple of weeks ago. I have an extract of points from there. I would recommend, if you have not watched that presentation, please go and watch that, because that has a lot more points than the abstracted list here. We are continuing shadow. Antiochus IV Epiphanes of Seleucid dynasty, he's universally agreed as the little horn in the shadow. He came up to Jerusalem pretending to be peaceful. So he was actually very angry with Judeans and he wanted to kill a bunch of them, but they would not let him into the city because he has to lose several soldiers, because they would undertake a fierce opposition and resistance. So what he does is he comes as a friend with a smile, a big, wide open, showing his teeth, that smile. We call that toothpaste smile. So nobody believed that his real intentions are. So he came up to Jerusalem pretending to be peaceful. This is in shadow, but in reality, something happens to the Christians, the true church. And he comes as friend, and everybody embraces him and upholds him. And then he kills using his deception. got possession of the city by treachery. So initial understandings or agreements he has, whether written or oral, he will not honor them. He's a traitor. He's known for his treachery, this little horn. We are seeing these descriptions in history as well as from scriptures. King did not spare even those who welcomed admittedly into the city, admitted him into the city. So even those who welcomed him, he doesn't spare and kill them all. Covetous inclination towards the riches that lay in the temple, treasures, lots of gold, ornaments of great value. He has eye on that in the temple. Ventured to break the league he made to plunder the temple. So he wouldn't even spare the temple. If he has some understanding with the priests, that also he would put aside. He took down lampstands and golden altar of incense. So lampstand picturing light of the world, us. We can no longer shed our light of the gospel. And golden altar of incense is prayers. There perhaps no more public prayers. Took down brazen altar, that is your animal sacrifices. In under new covenant, in reality, we offer our bodies as living sacrifices. That is somehow stopped. And the table of showbread, that is the bread, 12 loaves for the children of it, for the priests, that bread, which under new covenant represents the teachings of Christ, is the true manna. So the true manna, the true teachings of Christ are also banned, perhaps. That is stopped. Took veils made up of fine linen and scarlet, the veil. Veil is the body, that is also taken out. Emptied secret treasures of the temple. So all the value worth in the new covenant temple, that is us, is also stolen, knocked out. Put Judeans to great lamentation. So in the shadow, it is Judeans, Judah. In reality, spiritual Judeans, circumcised in heart. We are also called Jews in Romans, book of Romans. Daily sacrifices were banned, which were offered to according to the law. So daily sacrifices, there is morning sacrifice and evening sacrifice, they were banned. So your daily, whatever daily Christians would do, grant us our daily bread. So all such things are banned. We talked about several of the last presentations. It slew some and carried captive others, including wives and children. So it killed a bunch of Christians. It will kill in the end time and take some as captive, that is put in jails. That's exactly in line with Matthew 24, Olivet prophecy. Estimated count 10,000 according to Josephus. Overthrew finest buildings and took down walls of Jerusalem. For us, New Jerusalem, its walls are salvation. Built a garrison fortified with high walls and towers overlooking temples. So he has a watchdog. So he has a semi-military agencies put in force to watch the church, watch the Christians. If anybody is found to be worshipping God, they would either be killed or be imprisoned by these agencies. The citadel also housed impious and wicked Judeans who caused great suffering to the people. So there are black sheep and double crossing. They pretend to be part of church in reality, mingle amongst us as our brothers and sisters, but they're actually working for these agencies which are spying and watching over us. So they are their informers, and they give the information to these agencies so that they can come and kill us or imprison us. So there is always people who backstab. We talked about them during the feast. You have tares that are planted by wicked one. So I believe they are tares. King built an idol altar on top of God's altar. So the little horn puts a different form of worship, another worship on top of true worship. Under new covenant, true worship is worship the Father in spirit and in truth. So that is taken out and put another form of worship other than worshiping in spirit and in truth. So we have to understand what the true worship is, that is worshiping Father in spirit and truth. And whoever are doing the true worship are called true worshippers. So the true worship is replaced by false worship, and true worshippers either killed or imprisoned. You are left with false worshippers. King offered a swine on that altar. So he builds another altar, idol altar, on top of God's altar, and a swine on that altar he offers. So swine is abomination. It is filthy, and it is like nostrils, uh, smoke to the nostrils of God. It is abomination. It is filthy. God cannot stand that. So such things Christians would do under the influence of little horn. He banned worship of true God, compelled serving his gods or other gods. So that's what he did to Judeans. He will also do it to Christians. Compelled people to begin to build pagan temples, raise idol altars in every city and village of Judea, and offer swine every day. Some refused to honor king's instructions and suffered great punishments and torments. So the true Christians, some of us will also stand against little horn and would suffer, rather choose to suffer punishments and torments. Commanded them not to circumcise their sons. So for Judeans, it is circumcision in flesh. For us, circumcision in spirit. The circumcision in spirit, the way it is explained in the new covenant, is circumcision with truth. That's where it matters. So you no longer would be able to baptize new people with the truth, with the teachings of Son of God. That is what it amounts to in practical terms. He appointed overseers to enforce his orders. So he created special agencies, perhaps at federal level and state level, as watchdog agencies to watch for any Christians that are found to be worshiping their God, worshiping the Father in spirit and in truth. Many Judeans complied either voluntarily or out of fear of the penalty. So many Christians would fall. Love of God would come down, and love of many would grow cold because lawlessness abounds. So more Christians would lose out during these times. Best and the noblest did not regard king's command and faced consequences. So there is always remnant, true church, true people that are faithful, and they did not regard their physical lives, nor are they afraid of the tortures and punishments. So they rather decided to face consequences, but remain faithful to God and his Son, and faithful to the teachings of his Son. Every day went through great miseries and bitter torments. So every day the persecution continued, people after people, family after family, individuals after individual. The entire tenure, 2,300 days, or time times half a time, this period, church goes through severe, most severe persecution. It is unparalleled, never in the past nor in future. Those are the descriptions God gives us. And those who refused to take the orders of little horn, they were whipped with rods, bodies torn to pieces, crucified when they are alive and still breathing. So strangled women who circumcised their sons. So the whole congregations, woman is a representation of church. So the churches as a whole are also rounded up because they are teaching the truth. Circumcised sons were hanged around neck, crucified. So they also killed the young new Christians that came to faith. If any sacred book of law found, it was confiscated and burnt. So perhaps Bible is banned, and all the literature that helps the Bible probably would be banned. Or by that time, any authentic Bible versions are banned. What all you have is Bible, but completely corrupted. Who knows how this plays out? Those who are found with it were subject to severe punishments. And went through little horn. The little horn in reality, not in shadow. Reality, it comes out of the 10 horns of the fourth beast, the dreadful and terrible beast. This is the sole surviving superpower at the time of second coming. So whichever sole superpower, unchallenged superpower, out of that or something related to that fourth beast, which is patterned after the Roman Empire, out of that beast, one of the horns, it comes out the little horn. So the little horn has great association with the fourth beast. If you get the fourth beast wrong, you will also get the little horn wrong. So you would think somebody else. So these are very interdependent, the modern kingdoms. The only way you can identify them are by the pattern recognition and pattern matching. It uproots 3 of the 10 horns. It has eyes of a man. It has eyes like eyes of a man. It has mouth speaking great things. Several commentaries tell us great things are really not positive. It's a negative statement. It is arrogant, blasphemous, speaking mouth against Most High. Its look was stouter than its fellows. It's different from the other 10 horns. It is stouter, it is stronger, and it has great power, perhaps pride and arrogance. It made war with saints and prevailed against him. So it's a clear statement. This is a modern nation, little horn. It makes war with saints and prevailed against them. This is a phrase, it almost matches with Revelation 11. The beast that ascends out of bottomless pit, it makes war against 2 saints, 2 witnesses, and prevailed against them, overcame them, and kills them. It also kills here, this little horn. It has 10 horns or 10 kings that has the fourth beast. It is diverse from the rest of the horns. It's completely different, qualitatively, quantitatively, in terms of finance, in terms of money, in terms of the intelligence, in terms of the intellectual powers it has. It shall speak words against Most High. So Most High is broadly understood as Jesus Christ. It could perhaps refer to God the Father also. In either way, it opens its mouth against the Most High. It wears out saints of Most High. This is definitely Christians. It wears out. How we would be worn out day and night, constant persecution, draconian laws, and people are hunting against true Christians. Either the people or the bands of people that are unleashed or the agencies of the beast, state and federal, they would be against saints. And every 2-3 months, every new year, they might pass more laws. And finally, the saints are worn out. You can only take that much. That much. Your patience ends out. But God tells in the patience, in the patience of yours, in the patience, you possess your souls. I think that's the phrase he uses. You would retain your souls, your salvation in the patience, in your patience. So here is the patience of saints tested. It thinks to change times and laws. We don't know how this would translate, little horn. Saints will be given into its hands for a time, times, and half a time. This is another phrase. We see it in Revelation also. And also regarding two witnesses. In chapter 11, we see this. Judgment will sit, take away its dominion, consume and destroy it unto the end. So the judgment will sit in heaven, and God will destroy this little horn. He will take vengeance on behalf of all his saints. And this is the little horn that came out, and it uprooted three. And this is the terrible fourth beast, the dreadful and terrible beast. This is sole, single, unchallenged superpower that is left alone when the second coming happens. There's no two superpowers at this point in history. There's only single superpower. Let's see chapter 11 of Daniel. I'll pick up from 21, verse 21. Prior to 21, the chapter goes with north and south. North is Seleucid dynasty and south is Ptolemies. North and south. King of north, king of south. So the kings would die and their sons are the succeeding kings, whoever is successor. Sometimes it's not always their son. Sometimes it is son-in-law. Sometimes one of the distant relatives. Or sometimes one of the generals would rebel and kill all the royal family and he becomes king. Whichever way happens, the dynasty stays together. So one king after another, they will be changing as the script progresses, but still the polarization of north versus south, this will continue. Typically, north is more powerful than south, but at some points of history, south becomes stronger than north. So on the south, you have Egypt, which is controlled by Ptolemies. And don't think Egypt to be of Egypt. It is also Grecian, Greek-speaking Egypt now, ruled by a faction that came out of Alexander. So Ptolemies are ruling Egypt in the south. On the north, Syria is ruled by Seleucid Empire or Antiochus. So Antiochus dynasty rules the north. They're also Greek speaking. So this is post Alexander history. So everywhere you have Greek speaking. So one nation would be fighting other nation, but all are Greek speaking. All the rulers, soldiers, and the top cream are Greek. So both King of North and King of South are Greek speaking. So several people would succeed one after other. And when we come to verse 21 after 11, chapter 11, we have one specific king in the north, which happens to be the Antiochus Epiphanes. On the south, there is one of the descendants of Ptolemies that would be facing this northern king. So with that background, and Judea is caught between these two big empires. Sometimes it becomes part of northern kingdom, or after a few years or decades, it becomes part of southern kingdom, part of Egypt. And that's where you have Maccabeans. They fight against this northern kingdom, and they try to release Judea from their clutches. And they're very ferocious. They're very well organized. They have courage and faith, and they are like little light in the long tunnel of darkness. Nevertheless, they disappear, and this anarchy, times of anarchy and cruelty, continue while the Rome is steadily rising, slowly rising, and the Greek-speaking world would go down, and the Romans would slowly and occupy everything, paving the way for arrival of Son of God. So this is the scenario. So let's start with verse 21, and we are again going back to shadow. We find few very interesting points here. We have learned two phrases in the last presentations. Host of heaven, stars of heaven. These are the two phrases exclusively used for Israel. Because northern 10 tribes are gone from the scene, you have only Judea. Judeans or Judah is left with covenant status. So they are called host of heaven and stars of heaven. Today, we find another phrase. We will learn the third phrase, that is Holy Covenant. The phrase Holy Covenant is referred exclusively to Israel. And again, now it is applied to Judea. The Holy Covenant, when God talks about he will do this to Holy Covenant and that to Holy Covenant, he's talking about Judeans in the shadow. And for us, the Holy Covenant is the new covenant. The true Christians are also referred to as Holy Covenant in reality. So with that background, let's see a few things. And in his estate, so now the northern kingdom, there are several, 4 or 5 people have, four kings have already succeeded. And the Antiochus IV, which is called Epiphanes, he is considered to be the little horn, universally agreed. So now he is coming into scene. He arrives on scene. And in his estate, that is his father's stand, his father's place, shall stand up a vile person. Daniel calls him a vile person to start the story, to whom they shall not give honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. So this guy is not given the throne. He comes by flatteries, and he usurps the kingdom by every underhand dealings. But he shall come peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Flatteries not necessarily by flattering with your tongue. It has a broader scope of every manipulation. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken, also Prince of the Covenant. So he will be ultimately broken down. He will be killed. But let's continue. Verse 23. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully. He will do lots of agreements, treaties with other countries. Deceitfully, he will never honor any of them. For he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. He starts small, with small group of people, but he grows exceedingly strong. Those are the features of little horn. Verse 24, he shall enter peaceably even upon the fattest places of the province. So he will go there to wherever the wealth, greenery, and the riches are there, he will go and occupy those places in the entire world. He shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his father's father. So he breaks the pattern. He does the new things which his forefathers have not done. He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches. He shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time. He would be exceedingly successful in his campaigns, and he knocks down several other powers. And he shall stir up his powers and his courage against the king of the south. So now he's going south to Egypt with a great army, and the king of south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army, but he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. So the king of south did not invade at this time. He's living peaceably, but this guy is so ambitious. He goes after the southern king, southern Egypt, and there will be great battle, and the southern guy loses. King of south loses. They that feed the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. So the southern kingdom will be betrayed by insiders. So perhaps he has his tentacles into the other kingdom's inner circle. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief. So both of them are equally vicious and equally manipulative and lying. And they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. So they come to the peace table and agreements, and both will be telling lies to each other as if pretending to be friends, but both consider each other as their enemies, and it's whole manipulation and lying. And God says, yet the end shall be at the appointed time. So they were allowed to continue until the appointed time from God's perspective. Then shall he return unto his land with great riches. So he goes through several conquests, at least like 3 conquests by Antiochus Epiphanes towards the southern Egypt. 3 conquests historians recorded. There is also suspected to be 4, around which he was assumed to be killed, could have killed after the 4th conquest, but most historians would dispute if there were any 4th conquest or not. So we're talking about 3 conquests in entire chapter of chapter 11, verses 21 onwards. So then he shall return. It is one of the 3 major conquests. He comes back to his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant. So when he is coming with great riches, on the way, if you see the map, on the way, there's a tiny Judah is there. His eyes would be on holy covenant. This is an important phrase, holy covenant. Judeans, the covenanted people, and he shall do exploits and return to his own land. So he will also exploit the Judeans. At the time appointed, he shall return and come towards south, but it shall not be as the former or as the later. So is one of the conquests. He will go to south, and the script continues, verse 30. At this time is an interjection of scriptures. For the ships of Kittim or Shittim, Kittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. See the holy covenant. So what he's saying is the ships of Kittim, I have not done much research recently on ships of Kittim. Some people think, some commentaries think that their Roman navy came and stopped him. So Romans were already a rising power. So he did not want to confront Romans at that time. So maybe they came in favor of southern Egypt. So he doesn't want to engage in that big warfare. So he returns back to his land. And then on the return back, he has his hatred towards the holy covenant, that is Judeans. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. See how these things are used. So in Judea, he wants to kill a bunch of people in Judea. But there are factions in Judea. Some Jews actually supported the Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus Epiphanes, there are several people, several kingdoms and kings that have invaded Judea historically, like Nebuchadnezzar. There are lots of people who invaded Judea. But there is one difference between all the invaders of Judea and the Antiochus Epiphanes. That difference is so significant is that Antiochus Epiphanes, not just political war, it was a religious war. He wanted to destroy the religion or the belief system of Judeans. He wants to tear down the temple. Whatever they considered sacred and holy, he wants to completely tear down. And he wants to institute a different religion, different gods, and different worship. No other invader has actually attempted such things. So this guy stands out historically from rest of the invaders of Judea. No doubt he qualifies as the little horn. So here he takes advantage of those people who are willing to forsake their covenant. So these are like rebellious people. These are fallen away people. And they no longer honor their covenant with their God, Sinai covenant. They uncircumcise themselves. They completely against their own people. They join hands with enemy. So that he takes them and he colludes with them, intelligence with them, and he uses them to get to the rest of the Judea. So these are kind of black sheep. So he has indignation against the Holy Covenant. We have ships of Kittim, Numbers 24, verse 24. God says, ships shall come from coasts of Kittim and shall afflict Ashur, that is Assyria, and shall afflict Eber, perhaps it's part of Assyria, and he shall also perish forever. So the ships of Kittim, when they come, they destroy the whole of the kingdoms. We have a pattern in Numbers 24. Perhaps ships of Kittim are so dreadful, and people are terrified about these ships, the naval power. He was scared to fight against them. That's why he was grieved, and he will return to back to his kingdom. And the arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. Here shall take away the daily, and they shall place abomination that maketh desolate. So the abomination desolation in shadow is done by Antiochus Epiphanes. The little horn does the abomination desolation in shadow. But in reality, your spiritual little horn would come and do the abomination desolation, which Christ talks about in Olivet prophecy. When you see the abomination that maketh desolate, or abomination desolation, then he gives instructions to Christians what to do next step when you see the abomination desolation. So we have to understand what this abomination desolation that is taking place in shadow in order to understand the reality. And such as do wickedly against the covenant, against the holy covenant, shall be corrupt by the flatteries. So they were yielding to his manipulations, and they are also forsaking their covenant with their God and joining the enemy. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. So there is a division in Judea. There are people who are true to their God, know their God, they have knowledge and understanding, they remain faithful to the covenant. Others have joined the enemy, the little horn. So we have the same pattern in the end times Christians. There is a separation of two groups. One group know their God, understand their God and God's will, and remain faithful to the covenant. The other part would be in collusion with the little horn. They're part of the spying agency. They're part of the government agencies that are instituted to watch and spy against Christians. So you have two divisions. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. So there are some people among the true Christians around this end times, they understand and see things, and they shall instruct many. So there would be some teachers God would rise even in those dark times. They will help the rest of the body of Christ, church, and warn them, instruct them, and feed them. Yet they shall fall by the sword. So, in spite of instructions, some people will fall by sword and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil, and many days. It means all the times and half a time, people would lose out to the little horn because the assault is so massive, so overwhelming. People would lose out in spite of the instructions. And some of these verses would bring chills to me. What happens to the instructors also? The next verse. Even though we prepare ourselves for these events to come and we prepare mentally, spiritually to lay down our lives, to face the martyrdom, but there's always unknown things, how they come, how we would face but it is God who sees us through these martyrdoms, these punishments, these prisons, imprisonments. By grace of God, by the goodness of God, and by his abundant mercy, he will see us through any difficulty. Verse 34, now when they shall fall, they shall holpen with a little help. So it is not total overtaking by the little horn, but those who are faithful are given little help from God. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries. So many in the church would go after little horn, would be gone, falling away. But few faithful who are standing with God, they'll be given little help from God, little relief, little way out of the difficulties. That's what God is promising. And some of them of understanding shall fall. So even people who have understanding, they would also fall. To try them, why God, people who have understanding also will fall to these attacks? To try them, to test them, and to purge, that is to purify them, to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. So times and half a time, that is the period allocated for this little horn to do its dirty work against true church. So until such time, the things will be progressing. And until such time, God will throw even people who have understanding into this fire to purify them, to make them white. Verse 36, and the king shall do according to his will, that is again little horn, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things, again bad things, against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. So for times and half a time, he will do this, all the dirty work. But at the end, whichever time God allotted, his end will come. He would be judged. Here is an interesting phrase. He shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak bad things against God of gods, against true God, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. So he is a mad guy. His exaltation has no bounds. He exalts himself equal to or above Son of God, and it is possible he may even exalt himself above the true God, God the Father. Who knows? In his madness. We have parallel verses in the New Testament, Thessalonians, Second Thessalonians. This guy also does very similar thing. He exalts above everything that is called God, Let's see a few verses in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, because deception is rampant. Little horn operates and works through deception. For that day, that is return of Jesus Christ, that day shall not come except there be a falling away first. So the transgressors have to come to the full, and the man of sin will be revealed. So the little horn will be revealed eventually, the son of perdition or son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped. Don't you see the same phrase here? Against God, against every God, everything that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So New Testament always gives more details about this little horn. Continuing verse 5, remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things, Apostle Paul writing, and now ye know what withholds that he might be revealed in his time. But the mystery of iniquity does already work. Only he who now lets it will let until he be taken out of the way. So the mystery of iniquity does already, the mystery of iniquity is, the word iniquity is lawlessness, anomia. The mystery of anomia is in full work. That's what Christ also said in Olivet prophecy. Because of the lawlessness abounds, the iniquity, love of many would grow cold. So that's exactly what's happening. It's tying up actually to the little horn. But he is restrained by God. Many people think it is God. I also tend to believe that it is God who is restraining from him from being revealed to the church. Everybody thinks that he is a friend, but he is doing these operations behind the scenes. But at some point, God would expose him as he is. So, at least to his people. So, whatever is restraining, that restrainer would be removed, and then this guy would be revealed, at least to the church. Continuing, verse 8, and then that wicked one would be revealed, whom the Lord would consume with the spirit of his mouth and will destroy with the brightness of his coming. So it is happening at the second coming. When the Lord comes, he destroys the little horn. So the little horn and the fourth beast, they will almost come and exist until the second coming, where Christ and his saints would destroy these guys. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. So we see more about the little horn, working of Satan directly with all power of Satan, and he shows signs and lying wonders. So all the Christians fall for that guy, lying wonders and signs. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish. Why? Because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. They received not the love of the teachings of Christ, the truth. That's why, so that they might be saved, because they received not, because the transgressors have come to full. This guy is unseen. Continuing, and for this cause God shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie. If you fail to love the truth, God would send this strong delusion that you should believe a lie, that they all might be damned or destroyed, who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. But we are bound to give thanks always to God for you, brethren, beloved of the Lord, because God has from the beginning chosen you to salvation through the sanctification of the Spirit and belief of the truth, red letters, whereunto he called you by our gospel, to the obtaining of the glory of our Lord Jesus Christ. So New Testament gives more light into these entities. So neither shall he regard, back to Daniel 11, we are back to the shadow of little horn, neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of woman, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. So here there's a phrase, he does not regard the desire of the woman. So he's some kind of gay. He doesn't care for woman. That's how many people interpret it. But it doesn't fit the phrase. The first phrase is he exalts himself above everything, every God. Now here, he shall not regard God of his fathers. Any God is a continuation of that theme. Any God, even God of his fathers, not the desire of woman in the sense, the female deities like Diana, like other female entities. He doesn't even care for them, neither for woman gods or male gods, God of his fathers, nor desire of woman, nor regard any God. So in this context, it's not talking about the woman, but female deities. For he shall magnify himself above all. So this would clarify. But in his estate, in his power, he shall honor the God of forces. This is an interesting thing. He magnifies himself above every God, everything that is worshipped. But again, interestingly, he considers one God, the God of forces. Many commentators say it should be rightly translated as God of fortresses. Fortress is a fort, God of fort. Fort is a fortified domain, fortified entities. So you have a God of these fortified entities all over the world. He shall honor that God. Who is that God? We don't know. But Thessalonians gives a strong hint. He works according to the power of devil, power of Satan. So it has to be Satan, God of forces, God of fortresses. And a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. And there are several, I've read several commentaries and several teachers spent bunch of years on these passages. Some of them, few of them, suggest this phrase, God of forces. Perhaps it is referring to Freemasonry and other secret societies. That's what they suggested. I have not done research myself, so I thought I would pass it on. Verse 39, thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many and shall divide the land for gain. So wherever good land is there, he will grab in the shadow. And at the time of end shall the king of the south push at him. So again, he has a push from Egypt, southern kingdom. And the king of north shall come against him like a whirlwind, and with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. So it's a global war, like land and ships. And he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. And he shall also enter into the glorious land. This is again a strong hint about Judea. And many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand. That this is in shadow, even Edom and Moab, and chief of the children of Ammon. So they are spared by this guy. And he shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. So finally he conquers and completely takes over southern Ptolemy kingdom, Egypt. So he's basically ruler of the whole world. the little horn gets the possession behind the scenes of every government, every country in the world before Christ comes and destroys it. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. And the Libyans and Ethiopians shall be at his steps. So he would subjugate Libyans and Ethiopians also in shadow. And he has power over gold and silver, treasures of gold and silver. What does that mean in reality? Does he have control over global currencies, the flow of goods, flow of money, flow of treasures? It's a strong hint. But the tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly to make away many. So some prominent enemy from east and north is going to come. He gets that intelligence report that they are coming. So he will be with great fury. He will go with armed forces to confront. It's possibly kings of east and from north, both directions somehow refer to Christ coming back. We can make a case for it, or maybe another kingdom. But Thessalonians tells us the Lord will destroy this guy with the breath of his mouth, the brightness of his coming. So it's most likely east and north, or Christ figuratively. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end. None shall help him. So he's completely overtaken church, the Christians. All Christians he has subjugated. Any true Christians, he has already either killed them or already imprisoned them. So all the false Christians, all nominal Christians are under his full control. But his end shall come. None shall help him. Perhaps Christ will come and destroy him. That brings us to the end of the presentation today. We have learned Holy Covenant, and we have learned more things in similarity to Thessalonians. So we'll open the room for um, your insight and discussion.